Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space, doing an art journal page today. So this is a double spread, so this is actually two double pages and they sort of coordinate together. So just first applying in my altered book, I love working in altered books, just applying some gesso to each of the pages just to seal the pages and to give my paint and stamping and bits I'm going to stick on top just a surface to stick to. Most of the time I gesso my pages, sometimes I don't, especially if I'm using spray inks. They tend to not like working with gesso, but probably 75% of the time I do gesso my pages. So what I do is when the gesso is still wet, I will close my book and close the pages and give them a bit of a squish, and that adds a bit more texture to the page. Along the lines of the, and I'm going to get the word wrong, dendritic, starts with D. It's when you slam two bits of glass, or not slam, but put two bits of glass together and then pull them apart and you get sort of these funky patterns on it. I don't know. So using Liquitex gesso that I picked up cheap at Spotlight a while ago. I tend to grab what gesso I can get reasonably priced. I would love to use Liquitex all the time, but unfortunately it's not in my budget. I have a load more pretty things that I would like to buy with my crafting money. So welcome to all our new subbies to the channel. We've had a flourish of new subbies lately. I do apologise, videos have been a bit lacking. Life has just got crazy and I'm having a few issues with my editing program. I went and did this voiceover last night. This is approximately a half an hour video. This journal page took about 2 hours to put together because it is like two double pages. And I played the voiceover back. And little did I know, Miss Alexis had been using my laptop prior to me and had some windows open. She goes, "Don't close my windows, Mum." She was on the internet doing something or other. So I didn't. And little did I know, we had the computer on mute because often when she plays computer games, she doesn't like the music. And I played back my voiceover, or my voicing over, and I had music playing in the background. So here we go again. Excuse my head, just fixing up the gutters of the double pages. Sometimes when they're between signatures, they actually gape a bit more. So I tend to put a piece of masking tape down the middle, and at the end you don't really see it. Usually I would do that first before the gesso, but I sort of forgot this time. The important thing about art journaling is to dry your layers in between or any mixed media, otherwise you end up with a modelled mess. So I've got a darkroom door stamp, one of their collage circles, so each of the little circles have a different pattern in them. And just stamping that without using an acrylic block because I just want an overall pattern. I don't want it sort of to be perfect, because if I stress to get it perfect and it's not perfect, then it annoys me, so I go for imperfection, which works really well. Plus my art journal is quite lumpy in some spots because I have stuck lumpy earth stuff and texture paste and all that sort of guff in there, so you can't get a perfect impression anyway. So just using a purple archival ink pad. I'm using an archival ink pad because I am going to be putting paint and stuff over the top, so I do want the ink to be permanent. This art journal page is actually based around a Mission Inspiration. Mission Inspiration has been running for about 5 years, the brainchild of Mike Deacon, and it's basically a list of ingredients to include on your page. You used to have to do them in order, but he's lessened the rules a little and you just have to include these 8 things on your page. So stamp with a pattern all over is the first one. Scrape paint on your page. Small paper shapes or fragments. Make holes in your page, which was a fun one to do. Draw or paint a face or a fragment. One word as your focal title. Journaling or illegible text. And add something metallic or shiny. I think I did miss the add metallic or shiny. I must have meant to come back to it and I didn't get around to it. This is Mission Inspiration April, so it does come out every month, and you'll be seeing this possibly in October. Shh, don't tell anyone. So I did this a couple of months after April. Life has just got so busy this year. Just life. Yeah, life. Let's just put it like that. All aspects. I can't even talk tonight. It's very late, but I do want to get this voiceover done and up on YouTube. All aspects of my life have been super busy lately and complicated. Even doing a simple voiceover. I do it and I play it back, and then the voice and the pictures don't match, which is so frustrating because I have to go and do it again. Or I get music in the background from Miss Alexis playing on my laptop. So yeah, just life happens. So I was just scraping some acrylic paint across the page with a spatula, and now I am on to cutting a circle out. So just use the inner of my tape. Probably should have had a sharper knife because this knife was a little blunt and I did hack this up a little bit, but that's okay for my first attempt at putting a hole in a page. I thought it was pretty good. So I did continue to cut bits, and then I just gave up and left it a little raggedy. It has to be an easier way of doing it, and probably picking a circle for my first attempt at this project was not ideal, but that's me. I do things the hard and the impossible way, and sometimes the wrong way, but that's okay. At least I put a cutting mat under it so I didn't cut any further into my pages. I don't know. So the reason I wanted to do a circle is because I end up doing an eye on the page, but you'll see that very, very soon. So the next step was to add paper fragments. So I decided to grab out my little neglected die cutting machine. I don't use it as often as I should, possibly because I have to go and die cut things when I want them. I don't have sort of a stash of die cuts, so I may sit there one day and just do a whole bunch of die cutting and just have things I can grab, which means I probably use them a lot more because getting my die cutting machine out, finding my dies, finding the paper, sometimes is a bit painful. So I decided to do circle rings because I wanted the background still to show through and I didn't want to cover up a lot of the background. And I decided to offset my rings because then I didn't again have to get them perfect. And I do apologise for my big head getting in the way. I do suffer from low vision, and unfortunately I will never have a driver's license, which makes life interesting, let I say the least. It just makes life a lot more busier. And sometimes I do have to get my eyes quite close to see something lined up if I'm wanting it perfect lined up. So hence why I do things a bit wonky, because then it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. So I do cut more of these than I need, so I decided to cut the whole half sheet of paper. And the inners that were coming out of the bigger circles, I go and die cut those into smaller circles as well. So I do have a few spare ones of these left over for next time I decide to go and use some die cuts, assuming the colours work. That's possibly my problem with going ahead and die cutting a lot of them. The colours won't work when I go to use them, but I suppose I can always paint them. So just lining those up on my page in a random order. I like some that are hanging off the page and not completely a circle, so it looks like it's random more than looks like it's more random than put on the page in a deliberate way. And I do apologise about the yawning. It is 10:30 at night, but I shouldn't be tired. And then again, I did go for a big walk today. So just using matte Mod Podge to stick these pattern paper shapes on. So just a little bit under the pattern paper shape and a little bit over the top. This is scrapbooking paper, so it is a little thicker than I'd usually like to use, but I did like the circly patterns and the colours seem to work well with this layout. So I tend to use a little bit more adhesive than I would if it was a thinner paper or like a tissue paper or a napkin. So trying to use up the matte Mod Podge, I have discovered a few more different matte gel mediums that I like better, but I'm also a go by price. So if something's on special or cheap and I can get it, I will grab it and use it, even though it's not my preferred method of sticking stuff down. I have found some more affordable matte Mod Podges that I'm going to try out very soon. I would love to always be able to afford Liquitex, but hey, my bank account doesn't allow me to do that, especially the amount I go through with my art journals, and I can be more generous when it's a bit more affordable as well. And Alexis also loves to art journal with me as well. So we go through these jars of glue very, very quickly. So after I stuck down all the shapes, I did go over all the page, just because even though it's a matte gel medium, it still has a slight bit of gloss to it. So instead of seeing some of it just around the shapes and not all over the page, I did do it, extend it to between the shapes. And by the time I stuck most of those shapes on, most of the page was finished, covered anyway. This is the reason I used an archival ink pad in the background. If I'd used a water-based ink like a distress ink or an oxide, that would have brought the water like the water from the matte gel medium would have interacted with the paint. So now I decided my circles are blended in a bit too much, so they need to stand out. They probably didn't need to stand out this much, but it was what I had on hand. I would have loved to have a Stabilo oil pencil to do this with. This is black paint in a fine liner applicator bottle I got in a class kit several years ago, and it's still going strong. We've used this on a lot, and it's still giving us paint. It's a never-ending bottle of paint. I do now have a Stabilo oil pencil, which would have worked in this occasion as well. I do like the contrast of them, but you can also make your page look quite subtle as well. It depends what sort of look you are going for. So just smudging it with my finger as well. To make it dry a lot quicker, because when it comes out of the fine liner bottle, it does come out like a little sausage. So you can get quite a raised effect as well. The reason I love the fine liner bottles is it has a needle in the cap to put back in the, I missed one, so I had to go back and do it. Has a needle in the cap that goes into the base part of the bottle to stop it from clogging as well, because if you didn't have that needle, then it would always clog up, and that would be a pain. So just smudging those around, and again drying them off. It's very important when you're doing mixed media and layered things in your art journal to dry every layer in between, because otherwise you end up with a puddled mess. I have enjoyed doing this page with the whole and the double page. It did take me over about 2.5 hours. I have cut this video back to being just over 30 minutes, and it is sped up 3 times, so I don't actually art journal this quickly. It'd be nice if I did. I'd get a lot more stuff done. So just taking that same fine liner bottle and drawing roughly around my eye shape. I don't know why I come up with the eye shape. Something that popped into my head, and I decided to go for it. If Alexis was with me, she'd be laughing. She doesn't like when I'm very punny like that. And of course, when I start things like that, I just keep going, and she just loses it. It's so funny. She just keeps laughing at me and then thinks I'm horrid. So just painting out the back of the eye shape, and I wanted some of it to be white, and I also wanted some of it to be purple. And also I did get some dirty marks on the circle underneath. And I changed my mind a few times of what that circle underneath will look like. But that's okay. My art journal pages often change drastically before they are finished. But that's okay. That's what art journaling is. It's about experimenting. So just helping the page sit up on my scissors to when it's drying, so it doesn't stick to the page underneath. I want to do a bit more like this. I love the idea of the cut page and seeing through to other pages and putting acetate in them and giving your art journals a bit more interaction, almost like an altered book. I watch a few YouTubers that do altered books and do windows and pockets and all that sort of stuff, and that's on my to-do list to do. So just going around and defining around the eye with the paint. I could have used normal black paint, but hey, that was on my desk, the fine liner bottle, so I used that. Just trying to get it on the edge as well, so when it does sit on that following page, you get a bit of definition. I use my fingers a lot on this page. I think fingers are great for art, and it's something about having the paint on your fingers. I know some people can't stand it. Not to name anyone that starts with A in my household, does not like getting paint on her fingers, but I love it. I'm the opposite. It's a bit more therapeutic to me to have paint on my fingers and finger painting than holding a brush. I don't know, just the way my weird brain works. Art journaling to me is all about the process. If I spend 2.5 hours on a page, like I did with these 2 pages, and at the end of it I decide I don't really like it, that's okay. I've taken the time out of my day, I've taken time aside from my busy schedule, from all the other craziness in my life, and just spent time with me and myself and my art. And that's what I love about art journaling. I can spend 5 minutes, I can spend 2.5 hours, depending on what my schedule allows. So that purple paint is some Jo Sonja little tubes of paint. I'm trying to use up a lot of my small tubes of paint and bits and pieces of paint this year. I do want to get some Dina Wakley paints, but really can't justify when I have 2 boxes of paint bits to use up. So with this eye, I wanted to, oh, there I go again. I wanted to have oh my god, it wanted to have a gradient look. So I wanted dark on the outside and then sort of blending into lightness. And then I went and put the black pupil, iris, whatever it's called, in the middle of the eye. It's been a long time since I did Year 7, Year 8 science. I'm really happy with how this page turned out. It's probably not one of my favourite pages, but it's up there. It's probably top 5 this year. I'm sort of growing a lot with my art journal this year and getting inspired by a couple of YouTubers and trying different things and experimenting and having fun. And if the page at the end doesn't appeal to me, or I do something to the end, usually it's the last step I do and then I decide and I go, usually it's the last step I do and then I wreck the page and go, oh, I should have stopped. And art journaling is sort of not a learned skill. There's a few sort of steps you have to follow just to get pages to work, and that's more about the layering, and it took me a while to get my head around the layering. Like, why stamp all over the page and then cover 90% of it up? But it's the process of art journaling as well. So this is the second double page, and I wanted to make more of these purple circles. So I wanted this second page to be sort of coordinated. So I used the same colours. I used the purple and I'll use the pink in a minute. But I wanted to be different. Does that make sense? So I wanted it to be sort of the same but not. Sort of the same but not. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, Melinda. But again, using my finger to make these circles with the purple paint and the white gesso. So gesso doesn't always have to be an undercoat. You can actually use it like I'm using it here as just a white paint to blend out and blend the purple cut paints, and you can also use it as a top coat as well. Gesso is a bit different than acrylic paint. It has what we call a tooth to it, or it has a little bit of sort of invisible grit, if that makes sense, and it gives your page a bit of tooth, so then other things will stick to it. That's what I learned when I studied Bachelor of Arts at school, which I only really finished 6 months of. Long story. Maybe one day I'll tell you the story why I did not continue with my Bachelor of Arts. I suppose it's never too old to go back to school, but I struggled at school because I like doing my own thing and I'm not really a follower and following the rules, and yeah, I didn't enjoy art school and following the rules. I like learning new techniques and doing different things, but I think I just had a mind or a brain that was just a little bit out there, a little bit before my time. And yes, well, I'll put it that way. That wasn't the reason I left. I left for a different reason, but one day I might go into that. So just spreading this paint around. This is a Americana paint, I believe I picked up at Lincraft years and years ago. Do apologise about the wobbling book. I am working on a trestle table. I'm trying to organise a decent desk or a table as opposed to a trestle table, and then it will eliminate all this shaking. And I'm sorry if I do make some people a bit seasick, because I don't enjoy watching videos like this when it's a bit shaky, but it will stop getting shaky soon. It's only when I do certain actions that my trestle actually shakes. So just wanting the red to be quite dark and intense, I did use the same colour on the front page, but because I scraped it with a palette knife on the front page, it's quite translucent. But this second page, I did want it to be quite intense and quite dark. So the two pages do tie together, but they also are different, if that makes sense as well. So just working on these purple circles again, because I did go over a bit of the lines when I put the pink paint on. Ideally, I possibly should have done the pink paint first, then painted out my circles in white, and then brought in the purple paint. But if there's a hard way to do it, that's usually what I do, because I don't think like that. This page sort of, the first page I was thinking about layers and the front page, but this page it was sort of, I wanted to complete it because I wanted it to be part of, like, coincide with the page. I didn't want it to be just this eye sitting on it. And that's when you do holes in pages, you've really got to finish that back page. So I sort of, was working this page back to front. But I was so enjoying adding this paint with my fingers. It was so fun. Sitting here watching a movie and just playing with paint and trying to use up these little tubes of paint. These Joe Sonia paints I got for like $2 for a pack of 8 or 10 years and years ago at Spotlight. I wouldn't pay. They were like little sample bags you could get of all different colours. And trying to use up all of that sort of stuff and getting back to just a smaller amount, I'll put it that way, of paint. So possibly down from 3 boxes to 1. And then I can splurge and get some new paints. So excited to get some new paints, but I really can't justify until my colours get down to not nice colours. Like if I run out of hot pink, I can possibly go buy some new hot pink, I think. It's terrible. I was going to go on a spending freeze this year with my art journaling and my art and scrapbooking and all my things. And then I thought, well, no, if I totally restrict myself, I will like fail in the first week and go out and buy stuff. So I thought long and hard about it, and I decided to have the philosophy of I have to use more than I buy. So if I use up 3 or 4 tubes of paint, I'm allowed to go buy 1 or 2, or maybe 3 if I used up 4. See, using up more than I'm buying. I don't think I've actually quite got there. I think I need to do a little bit more art before I get there. I just have invested in some Halloween stuff as well. Or Halloween gets me every year. I went and bought a bunch of stamps and dies and things for Halloween, and hoping this year to get to use them. They haven't quite come in yet, still waiting for them to come in. They do take a little while to come across by sea, but hopefully we'll get them soon, and I might use some of them in my art journal as well. Depending on what size they are, it was a bit hard to judge the sizes of what I was buying until I get them in my hot little hands, and hopefully soon. But it's never too late to do Halloween, is it? Maybe I could do Halloween into November as well. So just drying off that paint. Sometimes I dry from the back of the page as well. Sometimes I dry from the front. If you're finding your page is curling up a lot, if you do dry it from the back, it does sometimes tend to uncurl your page as well. So here I decided that I wanted to use this stamp on the back page as well, but I didn't want to stamp over these circles. So I grabbed some scrap paper and a circle template and cut out some masks to actually hide the purple circly eyes when I added the stamp, because as I said, I wanted to use all the same elements on the front double page as the second double page. So I was trying to think how I could incorporate these spots. So again, if I'd thought about this correctly, I probably would have done the pink paint, the purple spots, and then the stamp purple spots, and then gone and done the larger purple spots. But well, yeah, I do things the hard way. This worked out quite well. Again, I'm not looking for perfection. I just want a little bit of texture in the background. I've seen some cool stuff done with this Darkroom Door stamp. Darkroom Door is an Australian company, and I believe she's been in business about 10 years, about as long as I've been in business. So she does a lot of fantastic stamps, and I'm assuming this one's Darkroom Door. I could be wrong. Ooh, I think I took it out of a package that said Darkroom Door. Slightly misplaced it at the moment. It's in my stash somewhere, but I can't quite put my hands on it at the moment to go and double check. But I do apologise if I am wrong. I believe she has a triangle stamp. I believe the company has a triangle stamp, and there might be one other shape that's similar to this. I don't know whether you can see in the actual photos. You might be able to see in the still photos at the end. Each of the circles have a different pattern in them, which looks really, really cool when you stamp it out. So just drying off my stamping. Again, I was using the purple archival stamp pad. And just cleaning off my stamp with a baby wipe. I thought I'd get rid of buying baby wipes when I got my baby out of nappies, but no, I think I buy more of them now. Especially they're great for classes, and when I teach at retreats and things, they come in so handy. So now I'm deciding what I want to do with this page and where it's going to go. The reason I like doing mission inspiration is sometimes I get to a page when I'm not doing a mission and go, oh, I don't know what to add. But having a list of ingredients or the list of 8 steps sort of sparks your mind, or sparks your, I suppose, imagination of what you can do. So these are some Chalkola paint pens that I grabbed when Amazon first came to Australia a couple of years ago. They were like 99 cents. You joined up for their Prime membership, which I have now cancelled because I'm not shopping as much on there. But this was just prior to Christmas, and I thought, well, I'll just get my Christmas presents on Amazon and a few other bits and pieces. So these were great. Usually chalk markers sort of rub off and sort of are quite chalky, but these ones are really good. They're similar to the Posca paint pens, but unfortunately Posca paint pens and I have issues because I don't know what it is with those pens. They sort of work the first or second time I use them, and then maybe I don't use them frequently enough. Maybe I don't know, don't store them properly. They stop working, and I have issues when I pay $5 or $6 for a paint pen and then I'm unable to use it. The only thing I've found with these Chalkola paint markers is they don't like to draw over the top of each other. They go lovely over acrylic paint, over matte gel medium, over Mod Podge, but if you go to draw over the top of another paint pen, or the Chalkola paint pens, they don't like to go over the top of each other. Apart from that, they're really good. Not a sponsored video or a promotion, but just telling you what I liked. I got about 4 different sets of them, which was really cool, and I ended up getting a couple of sets for a friend as well. I couldn't pass them up for 99 cents. Just got up on my Facebook feed, so I don't know how I would have found out about it apart from that. But that was really cool. I like to get bargains. I don't mind buying, or I don't mind spending expensive on art journal supplies if they're good value for money. But if there is a cheaper and a better alternative, I don't mind spending and getting the cheaper items and not brand name things, and then saving my money for brand named items. So just turning my book around, I find when I'm doing things like this and doodling and drawing on my pages, if I turn my book around, it's so much easier. I think that's got a bit to do with my eyesight as well. As you can see, my head's getting in the way a little, just because I'm trying to be quite perfect with my lines, and I just have to be a fraction closer to the page. I do wear glasses, but unfortunately my glasses are, they're great, but I still can't see very far. Oh, I'm dreadful. Dreadful glasses, hence why I can't drive a car, which makes life fun and interesting most of the time, but that's okay. We've got great public transport in my town, so we've got buses and we've got Uber and we've got taxis, and we get where we need to go, don't we, Alexis? I forgot Alexis was not in the room with me. I think she's gone to bed. So I keep scratching off onto paper because sometimes the nib gets, even if you've got a little bit of paint or wet gel medium, it can get on the felt tipped nib and clog it up. So I tend to just dab it off onto some scrap paper. So just dividing around the hole because I wanted it to be sort of a bit of a contrast when you flip the page. I'm quite happy with how these 2 pages turned out. So they sort of go together, but they're sort of not the same, if that makes sense. So even though this is you look through the front page and you see this is an eye, when you look on this page, they just look like pattern circles, so that's really cool. When I was designing this page, I was sort of stuck to what to do on the second page, because you sort of have to do something to make it complete. Otherwise, what's the point of putting a hole in the page? Yes, I could have stuck the page together and not had the background, but I do like how it turned out. Slowly filling up this altered book of mine. So just adding a border around the edge. I border probably about 90% of my pages. Just like how it finishes it off. So here I'm just flipping through and just deciding what I'm going to do. So giving the pens a bit of a heat set, and I decided to obviously miss that one. So just making sure the pages turn as well, because sometimes when I put things over the gutter or over the middle of the book, they don't tend to turn that well. So here I'm umming and ahhing what I'm going to do next. And flipping the pages apparently makes my brain think of something else. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was just having fun flipping the eye. So this is where I show you that not everything goes to plan. That's why I left this little bit in. So this was the prompt 1 focal word. So I thought I'd just write the word I, and then it can be seen through the window. So the idea behind this was I wanted a word that could be seen on the front page as a focal image, and then seen through the window as the word as well. So it's sort of combined the 2 of them. Ideally, I would have probably put my circle over a little bit. It was not in the middle of the page, but it still worked really well. So I spent all this lovely time making this bit of artwork, and seriously, this did look better when I imagined it in my head. because often I'll think of ideas and I'll sort of imagine a picture of what it would look like, and then when it comes to constructing it, doesn't look as good. Doesn't help that these are hand lettering and my handwriting is not the best in the world. I am trying to embrace it this year and just deal with it and go with it and try to improve it a little. But handwriting was not my strength at school. I got so many bad reports about, your child is very academically talented, but her handwriting leaves a lot to the imagination. And some teachers were quite not nice about it. So then I decided I wanted to colour in this piece. I should have not decided to do this at all. I should have went with the second idea to start with and use letter stickers, because I spent all this time, and I did want to leave this bit in to show you that I'm not perfect. I do make goof ups and mistakes, and sometimes that's the part of art journaling. There's really no mistakes. My philosophy is, and it's been my philosophy for years, ever since I've been crafting, is this is my art journal. If I'm happy with what it looks like, that's the only thing that matters. No one else has to like my art journal page. No one has to see your art journal. Your art journal can be very private and very personal. And I'm looking at that and going, that really sucks. So then I decided to add some colour to it, because apparently colour would make it look better. Make it look fantastic. Apparently not. So I do choose to share my art journaling wins and losses, I suppose, on YouTube for the whole world to see. But if you are starting an art journal page and you want to keep it secret and no one else will see it, no one else will look at it, that's the gem of art journaling. You can just keep it all to yourself and not show anyone. So if you're happy with how an art journal page looks, that's the only thing that matters. If you're not happy with it, fold the book up, walk away, come back in a week, a month, a year. Art journal pages don't have to be finished in a sitting, unless you're filming an art journal page for YouTube. Well, then you don't have to do them in sittings. Then I went and grabbed these great stickers that I use a lot from the reject shop. They're like $2 or $3 a packet, and they're quite nice size, and I like this so much better than my lovely writing. Sometimes I do like to do all my own artwork and hand drawing, hand writing, hand lettering on pages, and other days it looks better when there's stickers. So I'm just finishing that piece off, and I'll stick that piece on in a minute. So back to how art journaling is. So art journaling can be very personal. You can do a lot of writing, and get a lot of your feelings out onto your paper, and then art journal over the top of it. You can do a pretty background and then write over the top of it, and no one else has to see your book. So it can be very personalised, but I do like to share my pages because I like to be inspired by people on the internet, and I thought I would inspire some people on the internet with my interesting, crazy way of art journaling as well. So I thank you for sticking around. We're nearly finished. We're gluing this on with the matte Mod Podge, just so I had a bit of wiggle room to glue it on, and I did put in the wrong spot, and just double checking that it's in the right spot. So thank you for sticking around for the whole half an hour. I do appreciate it if you have stuck around this long. I know a lot of you won't. Well, if you haven't stuck around, you won't be listening to me anymore anyway. And thank you for all my new subbies that have come on board. I obviously didn't let that dry because I do have a dirty mark on it, and just looking at the art journal page now, some of the black paint is wiped off on it, but that's okay. I may go and fix that up to bring it back to white. So yeah, welcome to all my new subscribers. Leave me a comment down below. Do you like this style of page? Did you like this longer video? I do try to do a bit of variety in my videos. I try to do some real-time talking, which are longer videos, and this type of fast sped up and voiced over. I don't necessarily like doing a lot of the music ones. I personally don't like watching them. I don't know what sort of videos. I haven't asked for a while. What sort of videos do you like watching if you're still watching at this stage? So just adding a border to this page. As I said, about 90% of my pages do have borders of some description on them, whether they're a scribbly line, whether they're more of a bigger accented border. Most of the time they're a scribbly line because that's just the type of border. Sometimes I do a lot of effort and put scallopy borders or paper borders or washi tape or things like that. as well. But yeah, let me know what type of videos you would like to see, if there's any particular. We're a bit of a mixed bag of a channel, a lot of art journaling, a lot of hauls. Yeah, I shop too much. My daughter often comes and shares the channel with me as well, Miss Alexis, who is 11. We do have a lot of fun doing our crafting together. Hoping to do a bit more scrapbooking. I just haven't got around to it yet. Hoping to do a bit more card making. Card making's not my forte, but I'm going to give it a red hot go. Also like to bring you a bit, maybe Alexis and I'll do a bit more vlog style when we're crafting and that, when we're out shopping. We've done that in the past. But sometimes it's so busy, I try not to get other people in the vlog when we're out shopping, and that's really hard when we are out at busy shopping centres. So I decided to add some eyelashes, because what eye is complete without eyelashes? And I'm obviously went on my phone looking for something. So what am I doing now? Oh, now I'm doing illegible scribbly journaling, and I don't even know what I have written half the time. I scribble journal, and the reason I do it very scribbly is because I want to get the words out of my brain, because they're better out of my brain and on paper than stuck in there, going round and round in circles. And I don't want to read it again. So if you're having trouble reading what I'm writing, A, it's probably my bad writing, and B, it's probably not meant to be seen. So every so often I do write so I can see it, but I just decided to add some around the circles. Again, looking at the page, you can sort of see the scribbly words, but it's not in your face as well. So you can do a lot of sort of hidden journaling or subtle journaling on your page, and you know it's there, and it doesn't detract from the main page. So again, I sat there for about half an hour after I completed this page and just kept flipping and flipping, which was so much fun for the 2 pages. So I decided this back page was it needed a little bit of a lift. It was a bit dull in the background. So then I decided to draw around some of those circles I had in the background, but not every one of them, just a bit more randomness with the white paint pens and the black paint pens, and I just think that lifted the whole look of it. It just needed something. Those big circles were just too, I don't know, they looked just funny. So we decided to do, and I much prefer when I added those little circles and just leaving the little dots. It looks really nice. So I do have some still photos coming up at the end, and thank you very much for watching and sticking around with me. If you have, leave me a comment. I love to read all of them. Most of the time I do get back to you with the comments, but I am a wee bit behind because, yeah, well, life. Let's just call it life. Life has other things for me to do lately. So just giving that a good old dry off, and I'll leave you with the still close-up photos. Yeah, I kept flipping and flipping, and yeah, I kept playing with this page. Isn't that dreadful? Bye for now.